We're going to do a full service on this WR250. I'm going to walk you through what we do in a full service, just so you know. I'm going to put a link in the description for access to get our full service sheet if you want to download that and use it on your own bike. Alright, task number 1. Clean air filter. That's up there on the first part on purpose. It's because it takes a while for that thing to dry. So you want to get it out, clean it, get it all rinsed out, and hang it up to dry while you're doing the rest of the work on the bike. That way when you're ready to go back together, it's dry and ready to go. So while that's drying, we'll move on to number 2 on the list. Change engine oil and oil filter. Obviously you only need to do an oil filter if it's a 4-stroke, but this one is, so that's what we're going to do. Again, that's on there on purpose so that you can take the drain plug out, take the oil filter out, and let it drain while you're then going around the rest of the bike. So there's nothing coming out of there because this bike hasn't been run. WRs are a dry sump motor, so when they run, the oil gets pumped up into the frame and then distributed through the rest of the engine to lubricate everything. When they have been sitting for a while, they don't do that. So, but we always check it and make sure. Next, inspect brakes. You can see right there how much pad is left. You can see up here we got, was it sealing well? Just a quick question to take a look and see how it's going. And then, you know, how dirty and how much oil came out. Make sure we're all looking good. So we're now going to take a look at the brakes. And while we're at it, why don't we look at the tires and see what the tread's like. Alright, you can tell tires obviously in great shape. Brakes, you can see from here you got good pad left. Kind of hard to see. Basically you're looking at that, and you also want to make sure the brakes are working, like the levers and all that aren't spongy. So good. Brake pedal. Take a look at the rear pads. See, there's lots and lots of pad left. Rear tire looks good. We'll set the pressure before we get done. So, alright, next. Inspect wheel bearings and spokes. Quickest way to check wheel bearings without like taking things apart and taking them off and, you know, pulling things apart, which you don't really need to do unless you got an issue, is just grab the wheel like this and shake it back and forth. Try to go this way with it. If it moves at all, wheel bearings are no good. So the back didn't move. Now we're going to grab the front. No movement, so we should be good. Now we're going to check the spokes. The quick, easy way just to make sure they're relatively close is to take a spoke wrench or something like that and run them around the spokes and make sure they all make about the same sound. We're going to go back and tighten things up when we get it on a different kind of stand. But right now we're just going to check and make sure there's nothing crazy super loose. So check it out. They all sound about the same. See, if you got a loose one, it's going to be real dead sounding. So right now, so far, we're good. All right, wheel bearings and spokes are good right now. Now, we're going to inspect controls. Throttle, clutch, front and rear brake. So, gonna go. Already checked the brakes, but we're gonna go ahead and hit those again. All good. Now throttle. One of the most important things about riding a dirt bike is making sure that your throttle snaps back because you don't want it sticking open. So I just like to grab a hold of it, make sure it's moving smoothly and snaps right back. So that's all good. And the clutch, want to make sure it's moving smoothly. There's no hanging up, and then also that there's enough free play. So the thing with the clutch is that you don't want it to be banjo tight, unless you've got a recluse, but we're operating right now on the assumption that you're running a normal manual clutch. You don't want the lever to be banjo tight because it could slip. Burning up the clutch, getting the oil dirty, doing all kinds of damage, getting the motor too hot, all those things. So what we're looking for is a little bit of free play. The old school thing is you want about a nickel of free play, so you want to be able to put a nickel right down in here when you move it before it actually starts to disengage the clutch. So seems good to me. So controls, good. All right, now obviously if you have a hydraulic clutch like on a KTM or a Husqvarna or some of the other European bikes, it's going to be a little bit different, but you're still going to need free play with that clutch lever. That's the most important thing, is a little bit of free play to keep that clutch from slipping. All right, now we're going to check the coolant level. So this bike has an overflow tank, but that's not the coolant level we're looking at. We're actually checking the coolant level in the radiator, because that thing doesn't mean that the radiators are full necessarily. So what we're going to do, obviously while it's cold, see there's plenty of coolant in there. It's nice and clear, so that's awesome. So next, checking battery, okay? Obviously not all bikes have a battery. If this didn't have a battery, we would just check it off. So to check the battery, you want to check it just sitting here idle, and then we also want to start the bike up and make sure the charging system is running. So to do that, we want to make sure there's oil back in the bike, so we're going to fill it back up, and then we can check the running condition of it then also. 12.59, looks pretty good sitting here. Now we're going to check it while it's running and see if it's charging. See, it's almost up to 13, just at an idle. Let's go ahead and check it while it's cut it up a little bit. Goes up to about 14 and a half, levels off. That's what we like to see. You'll notice I ran that without the air filter in it because the air filter is still drying, but here in the shop that's not a big problem because there's not a bunch of dust flying around. So it's no big deal to run them like that. Obviously you don't want to go ride like that. Now it's time to oil the air filter and put her back in. Want to knead the oil in, make sure it's really in there. And the reason they make the filter oil a color, whether it be blue or red or whatever, is so that you can make sure you got good coverage over the whole thing. I like to, as you saw, spray a whole bunch of oil on the rim. I don't always use grease. Sometimes I use grease, sometimes I don't. If I feel like it's going to get a good seal with just the filter oil, that's good enough. It's pretty good. We'll hit it with just a little bit more, because too much oil might cause a mess or foul a plug, but not enough will blow up a motor. Alright, one of the things you want to check is to make sure that everything's sealing really well. Make sure that the air filter is actually on the lip of the air box and everything's sealed up. So take a good look in there. You can see, grab it. I try to wiggle it and move it. As long as it's not moving off the seal, we're good to go. Alright, now we're going to check the lights. Make sure everything's working. Obviously not all bikes have lights, but let's see, this one does. That's working. Now this bike is street legal, so we need to make sure the brake light's working. So we're going to push the brake down and check it out. Brake light's not working. Got to figure out why. Could be a couple different reasons. Could be a switch, could be a bulb. Now I got to go figure out why, but that's all just part of the full service. Alright, our next two are lube chain, adjust, change. Alright, so we lube the chain. Now we're going to check its adjustment. So every bike, every manufacturer, every style of rear suspension uses a little bit different one. So this Yamaha has a linkage rear suspension. So in my opinion, you need about 3 fingers of slack, like that, right about there. It's a little on the tight side, but I like it. It's not going to be too tight to cause any problems. So I like that. If we needed to adjust it, we'd adjust it. Now we're actually going to go through and tighten all the spokes just to make sure everything's good, even though we checked them before. But I always want to make sure you're good to go, especially on a full service. We charge pretty good money for this, so I want to make sure this bike is ready to rock and roll as it goes out the door so they can have a trouble-free ride. And the only thing that could cause a problem is them hitting something. And hopefully that doesn't happen either. When tightening spokes, you want to tighten every 3rd spoke and go around the wheel 3 times. That will help make sure you keep the wheel nice and true without having to worry about torque specs. Next thing is we're going to change the spark plug, because that's part of the deal. 4 strokes don't go through spark plugs very often. Actually, neither do 2 strokes anymore. But we're going to go ahead and slap a new plug in it, because who knows when the last time that was done. So. Now it's just time to put everything back in it, check the running condition. We're going to check the idle, check the response, and make any other notes that we find, and take it for a test ride. All right, bike runs great, throttle's good, idle's good. Ready to give it back to the customer so they can get out and have a ton of fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this little tutorial. I'll put a link in the description as to where you can get our sheet. You can download it for free. Yeah, hope you guys like it. If you like it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us, really makes a big difference. And share this around if you like it.
What?